You're listening to Heart Podcast with Lina Kevlani. Artezaar.com, online art gallery.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Heart Podcast. I'm Lina Kevlani from Artezaar.com, online art gallery. Today we have my dear friend Sandeep Adnani with us again. And Sandeep is a multi-genre author whose books have won a lot of awards, and most of his books are actually on the #1 bestsellers on Amazon across various categories. But what you didn't know about Sandeep, he's also a mental health counselor. Hi, Sandeep. Welcome to the show again.
Thanks, Lina. Thank you for having me again.
Sandeep, what made you switch from the world of marketing and advertising into becoming an author and counseling? As it's like you're, a lot of roles happening here now.
It was an interesting life decision on the back of another life decision. I had moved to Australia in 2017, and after having about 15 years of experiencing in marketing and advertising, I was looking for jobs and hoping again that that would help. And they said, "Oh, you're either overqualified, or you are over-experienced, or you don't have enough local experience." So that whole job search and whole process was going on when this course popped up in one of my searches about trained to be a counselor. And at that, I was nearing 40 at that time. I thought, will I be able to go back to school? Will I be able to train again? Will I be able to do the whole learning and exams and test thing again? I said, why don't you give it a shot? Thankfully, I really enjoyed the course, and it was a 1.5-year course, and I finished it in 9 months. And that started the switch. First the counseling, and after that, becoming an author. So,
oh, lovely. But what triggered your interest in this entire field?
It's something that I always wanted to do. I was always interested in psychology. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, what's your one regret? And I said, my one regret is not studying psychology as a bachelor degree at university, because we didn't have that option growing up here in high school to prepare you for that. So that's something I was always interested in, but I ended up taking subjects that were similar, like organizational behavior or human-computer interaction, and just interested in understanding how people are, how they think, how they behave, what makes them tick. And I think that interest kind of translated into this career change.
For me, it was sociology in university.
Yeah.
I think the first time I did sociology, it was only one class offered.
Yeah.
One elective that you had to take. I took psychology and I took sociology. But I think sociology made me realize and see the world. That one 3-month course that I did at uni changed me.
Amazing.
That changed me. I started seeing the world in such different eyes and respecting cultures and tribes and how people interact as communities.
Correct.
It was a beautiful course. Today, especially after the pandemic, the topic of mental well-being is at the forefront.
Yeah.
Work-life, family balance is something we've all struggled.
Yeah.
I mean, I've personally struggled with it when I worked in advertising. It's not like some days today I don't struggle. I do.
Yeah.
But with COVID and all the pandemic, the struggle became very real, and it came at the forefront.
Correct.
Right? So give us some insight from your experience on how can we go about balancing things, or is there even a balance that can be achieved?
A balance can definitely be achieved. It may not be what you say, a 50-50. It may not be balance in the traditional sense. But I think when we speak of balance, we can just talk about communicating openly and putting the things that we want to achieve and our priorities. We put them right, we put them out, we write them down. And when it came to working together as a family in the pandemic, people were in the same space, people had a lot more time, but people didn't know how to navigate that time. Now I think when people have gone back into more or less a normal life, people are enjoying that space, people are enjoying that privacy, but they're also somewhere missing the bonding that they had with their families and their friends. So I think right now we should be rooted in gratitude for what we have now, but also we shouldn't forget what we learned from the pandemic. And I think what mattered most at that time was having a home to work from, to study from, and having a family to count on.
I agree. I mean, I remember I've never been at home.
You've always been on the move.
I've always been all over the place.
On the move.
All over the place. And the fact that I was in the lockdown, I think the first 2 days I was like, that's great. I don't need to do anything. And then the reality kicked in.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I got myself so overwhelmed with tasks.
Yeah.
Because normally I would spend that time driving, I would spend that time meeting a friend for coffee. And now all of a sudden I had all these hours and I started giving myself things to do. This is what I did, guys. I'm not saying that anybody should do it. And I gave myself so many things to do. And I remember you and I those days we used to Zoom a lot as groups of friends.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, Leena, stop overwhelming yourself.
Yeah.
And you and your to-do lists. And, you literally had to take a step back. And as you very rightfully said, feel so much gratitude and feeling thankful for the fact that we had home.
Yeah.
We could sit and work.
Yeah.
We had time with our families. Our families were safe.
Yeah.
And just relearn the navigation bonds of how we function as a family, and then not to lose it once we started going out again.
Correct. What we went through together as a collective, as a planet, was very overwhelming, was very uncharted. And I think when we have emerged from the other side, and we can carry that learning with us.
And the kids, I feel, and the kids and the senior citizens, I felt, were the most impacted from the pandemic. How did you see them navigating through it?
I think what seniors felt was isolation, period, and what children felt was isolation from their peers because they were used to, playing with them, used to going to school.
Or they were too young. They didn't even know that there was, they're missing out on normal interaction as nursery.
Yeah. And, it all comes down to having this pent-up energy, like how, when you're doing to-do lists and you're creating tasks, because you have all this energy and we expend it in a certain way and now we don't know how to expend it. So I remember telling people that, double up on the phone calls to your parents or to your grandparents. Make it more frequent so that they are not as isolated. And with children, help them to expend the energy in different ways. So creative was one of the ways that was very helpful for children, besides the physical running around and games and stuff. But creative was something really good for kids, and it helped parents bond with them, whether it was baking, whether it was painting. But I did see them get very impacted, and I did see them, not only them, myself. I remember when we first met a group of friends after, not seeing each other for 4 or 6 months. It was like 10 people in a room, but everybody was quiet. Because people were used to talking on Zoom or talking on, video chat, but not in person. And then slowly, murmurs and slowly, conversations between 2 people turned into conversations between 4 and 6, and then it became a group thing. It takes a while. So we think we can just jump in and out of things, but what we have been through collectively is very big. And be kind and patient with yourself.
Yeah, I think for me as well, as you very rightfully said, I was doing a lot of online classes on Zoom with kids, online painting and all. We were doing that. I just wasn't sure how they would paint online. I think the block was in me, not in them, when I look back. But they made it very easy for me to teach them.
Children adapt really fast.
They figured the logic out. They used to tell me, hey, can you do it this way? Because it's easy for us. And I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. And I would interact with them on a day, at least 4 hours, different kids, different groups. And we would sit, sometimes we would talk, we would paint, we would do different things. I remember one instance where one of my nieces, we used to do painting together. She couldn't draw it the way she wanted to draw it. And she just burst out into tears because she was so frustrated because I wasn't next to her.
Yeah.
And just that process of trying to explain it to her on Zoom and just trying to, I felt frustrated for a second because I couldn't go and hug her because that's the kind of boundary we got.
Yeah.
But what came out of it was so beautiful because there was a element of trust and there was an element of, I can do this. That confidence built in her. So I saw a change in her confidence.
And also it gave you a different way to reach out to her.
Yes.
Yeah. And that learning that makes you more accessible to so many more people who may or may not be able to do physical classes.
Physical classes, yeah. And till today we're teaching online,
of course.
Which I'm very surprised. But because of timetables, because of timings, because of traffic, because of travel, because of whatever reason. But I believe, people were doing courses in music. People were playing the guitar.
Yeah.
I had these kids. They were really cute. One learned the guitar online.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then there's this Chinese artist that we have. She was learning the Chinese instrument called guizang.
Okay.
Guizar, I think I'm pronouncing it wrong. And she learned all of that online.
Wow.
There were kids learning Mandarin and Russian online.
So you can imagine there is so much, like I said, that untapped energy, the willingness to grow and learn. There's so much there, and thankfully, it was in the time of high-speed internet. Lina, imagine if this happened 30 years ago.
Oh no, I don't know about that. That's what that's the other thing I'm very grateful about is Wi-Fi.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi,
internet. Video calling. I mean, I was in Australia. I couldn't visit home for 22 months. That's the longest I've been away from home ever.
Ever, yes.
And I remember I was on the first flight out as soon as the borders opened in Australia. But I would talk to my parents almost every day, check in on them almost every day, check in on family, check in on friends, as you and I did. And
I think I bonded a lot more with my friends outside who had moved out of Dubai and used to come to Dubai once a year.
Yeah.
But I bonded a lot more with them because we were at home and we would do these monthly calls, these weekly calls and these, Zoom chats and all, which we wouldn't have done.
And
normally.
also we were breaking our molds. We were growing in different ways. So we were all helping each other grow. We were all helping each other. It's funny too when we say get out of the comfort zone, but we were in a comfort zone, but we were very uncomfortable in it.
Right.
And we were trying to help each other become comfortable in that.
What habits do you practice to stay positive or to stay motivated?
There's so many things, Lina. I think not only from a counseling perspective, but just from a human perspective, practicing gratitude, practicing patience, sharing things with others which will help them. There's so many times I've put a post or I've sent a post and so many people have said, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. That's exactly what I needed to read today. We take ourselves too seriously, Lina. And there's this friends group that I have, and we just randomly, every 2-3 days, we will just share this quote from the show Schitt's Creek. No one cares. No one cares, David. His sister tells him that. And actually, no one cares.
Everything is in our heads.
Everything is in our head. Everybody's living their lives. We take ourselves too seriously. Nobody noticed that you goofed up. Nobody noticed that you made a mistake. We hold ourselves too critically accountable. We're human beings. Just take it easy, relax. And we have to find a balance between flow and grow. And
That's very well said.
Yeah. So these are the tips, but also in general, just stop back and think. One key thing I've been sharing with people now is when you're feeling anything, just say to yourself, that's how I'm feeling. That's my emotion right now.
Honor it.
Yeah, and that's not a reality. It's how I'm feeling. So you need to get out of your head. And because the stresses of life are back, and we have to learn how to navigate those.
I think for me, I was very perfectionist, let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Everything had to be perfect is not even the word. Coming from advertising and marketing where everything was on a clockwork.
Yeah.
Everything is on that. You have to have a post up at 4. It cannot be 4:01 and all of it. I think by running my own business, I had to take a lot of steps back and breathe. But I think for me, I learned so much from the children. When I teach them, I think they've become my biggest teachers. And I'm so grateful to each one of them because they teach me little things of how I can get out of my head. Or I might have a process, and I've said this before, especially, when I'm doing clay hand building with kids. So I've broken down the exercise in my head that this is how I'm going to do it in class so that they can understand it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I have this beautiful little boy called Ridhan. And Ridhan would look at me and say, can we do it this way? And I'm like, how? Show me.
Yeah.
And he would do it in a much simpler way than I broke it down in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right, Ridhan, do you want to show the whole class? Because
Exactly.
he cracked it. And he took me out of my head. There was a different way. There's a different possibility. And it's a much easier possibility than I dreamt up.
They're in the moment and...
They don't process that critical thinking of right and wrong, if I want to put it that way.
Yeah.
They're in that moment and they're honest.
Yeah. And sometimes they do know what's good for them. And as a teacher, I'm sure you realize that, if you're sharing a way, please, okay, we're going to do it your way.
Yeah.
Easy. Yeah.
Easy. It was so easy. And all the kids followed him.
Yeah.
It worked.
Exactly.
It worked. Something that would have taken a little element, that would have taken us a couple of minutes to do. He did it in seconds.
Super.
And then they could go out and run. But that was the point of it.
But some credit to you, Leena, for that, because you created an environment where the kid could suggest that this is what I want to do, this is how I want to do. And also you created that environment where it was something fun.
But I think that goes back to our teachers, isn't it?
Yes.
Some of our teachers in high school.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring up another professor of mine. His name is Mr. Abrahams.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
You remember Mr. Abrahams? He used to teach us mathematics.
Yes.
And, and I would sit up there and I'm like, but why are we doing it that way? Is there not an easier way to crack that problem? And he would literally look at me and go, what is this girl on? But I think he gave me that space.
Yeah.
We were really scared of Mr. Abraham, I have to say this. He had that personality.
Correct.
Of I am the teacher.
Yeah.
But in his heart, he had the biggest teddy bear heart that he never showed until we graduated.
Yeah.
But I think people like him, Mrs. Kaur,
Yes.
Mrs. Moni in chemistry. I can't believe I'm remembering all my high school teachers. Mrs. Subramaniam in business. Mrs. Rao. Mrs. Valencia. Mrs. Linda Alderson.
Yeah.
They gave us that space to talk and express, which was not normal in our days.
Yeah, it wasn't something done, which is why these teachers are still, kicking in their professions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really. And, we've spoken about arts helping people cope and express.
Yeah.
Have you seen examples of it, or do you want to tell people how to go about it?
Oh my God. It was, I think the biggest blessing was art during this time. I was speaking to a friend's mum. She is 77 this year. So this is, in the pandemic, she was about 75. She was an avid, involved in sports, involved in bridge, involved in, painting, etc., etc. When COVID hit, there was nothing to do. You're sitting at home. You're a senior citizen. You can't even have helpers at home. And my dear friend, Pavan Aswani, he does mandala art in Mumbai. And people would go to him and, paint mandalas. He started making kits to mail to people's home with the paint, with the stencils, with everything, so people can paint. And then you have a big WhatsApp group and people share their work. So I just happened to mention it to my friend and he's like, oh, can you please send one to my mom? I said, of course. And I met her now in Australia and she said, I had forgotten, this was almost 2 years ago. She's like, oh, you were so kind, you did this for me. I said, what did I do? She said, you did this. I said, oh my God, yes, of course. And she's like, it really helped me. I was part of that WhatsApp group. I would share my work every day. I didn't even know at that time where I could get paints and colors from, but you sent everything to me. So something so small which I had forgotten helped somebody through a period of isolation. Kids who are expressing themselves through art. You and I were creating our own art.
We were I think I created a lot of paintings in the lockdown. I have to say that.
So art was, I think, very important, and I think a lot of people didn't have that time, or they were busy in other things. And when we were forced to do other things with our time, which is why sometimes I think that COVID happened for a variety of reasons, which will keep revealing itself over the years. It'll take a while. One of the reasons was this: to connect ourselves more deeply with ourselves and with our creative potentials.
Lovely. I think the other thing it did is, we had all these courses on the back burner.
Yeah.
Personal growth or work courses.
Yeah.
We just all started upgrading ourselves, and platforms like Udemy and Coursera and all of them actually rolled out university-led courses and accredited courses, which a lot of it was not available, not known. And I think for me, that was a blessing.
Correct. I did 2 courses myself from the Center of Excellence and one from Coursera, and it was brilliant. It was, you're so full of doubt, and you think, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to? And you just dive in. And I think now we're less afraid of trying new things.
Yeah. So now we have the Did You Know section.
Yeah, sure.
So instead of asking you 3 things we don't know about you, tell us 3 things we can do daily, weekly, to improve our lives.
I can't stress enough the importance of physical activity. So please get some physical activity into your routine, purely for working off your feelings. We don't realize how many things we have pent up inside. It's just walk it off, if nothing else. If you can do a sport, great, but nothing else, just walk it off. Eating right is great, but also treat yourself. Eat for the soul as well as the body. And I think, little acts of self-care throughout the day, throughout the week. Whether it's your favorite drink, whether it's your favorite show, whether it's your favorite song, just treat yourself. One of the joys of being back in Dubai is flicking the numerous radio stations we have here and trying to catch your favorite songs. And I end up catching them. And it's such a little joy. It brings something so, small, brings so much joy to me. So just try and incorporate as much joy and peace in your lives.
Very well said. All right, mad little Lina question.
Super.
If you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes,
wow,
what would you say?
Wow.
Can't give you 5 minutes, but I'm just
Of course. I think I would ask people to stop. Ask people to just stop what they're doing and reflect. Reflect on yourself. Reflect on where you actually want to go. Are you caught in a race? And, define your goals and define your ambitions, keeping everything in mind. The earth, your family, your friends, your health, and just stop. Because I think people are just running around from, pillar to post. I would just take a stop. And I was with a friend having coffee the other day, and I was like, can we just take 3 deep breaths? So in the middle of the cafe, we took 3 deep breaths. People forget to take deep breaths during the day. So just stop, take a few breaths, regroup, and see where you want to go.
I basically take off my shoes and I just stand on the earth.
Yes. Ground yourself.
I just ground myself, especially because now I'm, at the art center as well. We have the garden and all of it.
Yeah.
But I just feel, even if I'm in the building, I just take off my shoes. I just ground myself because I don't ground myself enough.
Take a moment.
Just take a moment. Yeah. Just feel the earth under my feet. Fantastic. And with that thought, guys, I'd like to thank Sandeep for coming by again.
Thank you so much, Lina.
I've left all of Sandeep's contacts below in the podcast, so feel free to reach out to him. Feel free to see his website, reach out to him on Instagram. All his links are below.
Yeah.
And stay positive, guys. Keep on creating. Keep on spreading this joy that we have, this little joy. And do take a moment to stop.
Yeah.
Breathe.
Reflect.
Ground yourself. love each other, spread that love, and stay positive, stay happy, and we'll see you in the next 2 weeks. Take care, guys.
Take care. Thanks.